Book title: The Lost Choices Secret. The Truth Hidden in Deviations. Written by Vahid Zekavati. Copyright 2024 NLP Radio Inc. Introduction. Sometimes, within the heart of ancient religious texts and myths, there are secrets hidden that have been misunderstood for thousands of years. Secrets that not only changed the fate of nations but were designed to be rediscovered by each generation in a different way. Could it be that what we've been told is just a shadow of the truth? Could the promises made to some have had a different meaning, one we've failed to comprehend? For years, the concept of the chosen people has been mentioned in religious texts. Jews consider themselves the chosen ones of God, while other nations and peoples seek their place in this narrative. But there is a bigger question hidden here. Does this chosenness imply superiority? Did God create anyone superior to others? Or perhaps this selection was merely a test, a grand trial, whose results have turned out quite differently. What you will read in this book will confront you with questions you've never dared to ask. Is it possible that humans, through misinterpretation of religious texts, have led themselves toward oppression and injustice? Could it be that chosenness was not a divine right, but rather a moral responsibility? In this book, we will unveil secrets that may lead you to a world entirely different from what you've known. A world where being chosen means being tested, and those who fail this test face severe consequences. Here lies a truth hidden in the shadows, one that could redefine the story of chosenness for you. Are you ready to lift the veil? The questions raised in this book may lead to answers you never expected. Religion has always been one of the most fundamental and complex subjects in human life. Throughout history and across societies, religion has formed as a belief system aimed at answering the fundamental questions of life and guiding humans toward deeper truths and meanings. However, over the course of time, misinterpretations and wrongful explanations of religious teachings have turned religion into a tool for racism, discrimination, and division. In this book, we will delve into the roots of religion and key concepts to offer a clearer understanding of its ultimate goal, guiding humanity toward truth. Is religion merely a set of rigid, inflexible rules, or can it be a source of love, empathy, and justice? Religion should serve as a path for elevating humanity, ethics, and justice, not as a means of categorization and superiority. However, the question remains, have we, as humans, truly succeeded in understanding the truth of religion, or have we been led astray by misinterpretations? Religion, as a social and cultural institution, can deeply influence our behaviors, beliefs, and values. At the same time, if not correctly understood, it can act as a tool for oppression and injustice. These contradictions lead us to ask, are religious teachings truly understood and implemented correctly? Are our interpretations of religious texts accurate and based on truth? Thus, this book will explore the positive and negative impacts of religion on human lives, seeking answers to these questions. We will delve into the deepest layers of religious beliefs in an effort to attain a more comprehensive and complete understanding. Does the religion we believe in truly lead us toward truth and goodness, or is it used as a tool for suppression and division? This book will be a journey of exploration into the world of religion and its meaning. We hope that with careful and detailed examination of its roots and concepts, we can gain a deeper understanding of religion and its impacts on individual and societal life. Are you ready to embark on this spiritual journey and uncover a deeper truth? Let's walk this path together and become aware of the complexities of religion and its influence on humans. The definition of chosen people in religious texts. The concept of the chosen people is one of the key and controversial topics in religious texts, especially in Judaism. This term, particularly in the Torah, is attributed to the Jews, portraying them as God's chosen ones. But what does this selection truly mean? Does it imply that Jews are superior to other humans, or does it place greater responsibilities and duties upon them? In the sacred texts of Judaism, especially the Torah, the chosenness of the Jews is mentioned numerous times. This chosenness is, in fact, a sign of a covenant that God has made with them. This covenant obliges them to follow divine laws and commandments. Therefore, the concept of the chosen people should be viewed more as a responsibility rather than superiority. In reality, they were chosen to execute God's laws on earth and to create a civilization whose laws would fully align with God's laws. This is the true meaning of chosenness. When we speak of chosenness, we must bear in mind its deep and multidimensional significance. Chosenness refers to selecting a people to fulfill a specific mission in line with divine objectives. This selection itself is not a sign of superiority, but rather an invitation for that people to act as a role model for others. In fact, chosenness must be seen as a moral duty. However, throughout history, this concept has been wrongly interpreted, leading to racial superiority, discrimination, and even numerous wars and tensions. Hence, we must carefully examine whether current interpretations of Jewish chosenness align with what is mentioned in the sacred texts. For instance, many verses in the Torah emphasize the responsibilities of the Jews. One such verse states, "You are a special people chosen by the Lord to be a peculiar people." Torah, Deuteronomy 14. This sentence clearly indicates that this chosenness is a responsibility to follow divine commandments. However, it is evident from sacred texts that they did not emerge successfully from this divine test. Mistakes such as the worship of the golden calf resulted in the loss of even the opportunity of being chosen. Unfortunately, due to misinterpretation of divine texts, they led themselves into deviations that persist to this day, causing oppression and injustice to millions of innocent people. Therefore, we must distinguish between chosenness as a moral duty and chosenness as racial superiority. Chosenness means being invited to do good deeds and uphold moral principles, not superiority over others. These misunderstandings have gradually caused some people, in the name of religion and based on a misinterpreted concept of chosenness, to engage in actions that are not only contrary to divine teachings but also foster division and hatred in religious communities. Why chosenness does not mean superiority. Throughout history, religious concepts have been interpreted in various ways, often leading to misunderstandings and ideological deviations. One of the most significant concepts is that of the chosen people, which in Jewish scriptures is attributed to the Jewish people. But does chosenness truly imply superiority? Can this concept be used to justify actions like invading other lands and displacing innocent people? This audiobook takes a closer look at this issue and explains how misinterpretation of this concept can lead to dangerous consequences. When God introduced the Jewish people as the chosen ones during the time of Moses, this selection represented a call to responsibility and adherence to moral and religious principles. The promise of the Promised Land was given to them so they could serve as a moral example in the fulfillment of their duties. However, this promise was conditional, depending on their commitment to the right path and obedience to divine commandments. Unfortunately, history shows that the Jewish people continued to deviate, resulting in their wandering the desert for 40 years. This wandering was not just a physical search for a land but a sign of their disobedience to God's commands. In other words, this divine punishment was a reflection of their defiance and failure to adhere to moral principles. God intended this punishment to guide the Jewish people back to the correct path and remind them that chosenness does not imply superiority over others but instead comes with greater responsibility. Despite this, after thousands of years, some of these historical writings have been used as justification for the occupation of Palestinian lands. This mindset represents a profound misunderstanding of divine words and history. The promise of the Promised Land given during Moses' time bears no relevance to the present day. It was specific to a certain period and cannot be used as an excuse for violence or displacing millions of innocent people. This misunderstanding and ideological distortion, which leads to beliefs in racial and ethnic superiority, have been used to justify actions like the invasion of Palestine. People referencing these ancient texts claim their right to occupy other lands and dominate people, but such thinking is clearly flawed and offers no legitimate basis for oppressing others. A deeper analysis of the matter reveals that God punished the Jewish people for repeatedly straying from moral laws. They were cast into the desert as a form of divine punishment for disobeying God's commands, and this fact cannot be taken as justification for present-day acts of violence. In truth, by defying divine guidance, not only did they forfeit the chance to fulfill God's promises, but they also put their chosenness at serious risk. Thus, no one can ignore the rights of others or claim superiority based on chosenness or historical promises. Chosenness actually means greater responsibility, not superiority over others. People must learn that such beliefs are not only unethical but also create tensions and inequalities in society. As a result, misinterpreting the concept of chosenness can lead to violence, discrimination, and even racism. This ideological distortion not only harms others but also puts the so-called chosen people at risk because social misinterpretations and misunderstandings can erode moral and spiritual foundations, weakening social trust and solidarity. In summary, misinterpreting the concept of chosenness can have dangerous consequences, both on an individual and a societal level. It is essential to examine these ideas carefully and prevent erroneous interpretations to avoid unrest and discrimination. People must understand that chosenness does not mean superiority, and no group or race can exploit religious concepts to ignore the rights of others. This understanding can foster unity and solidarity among people, leading to moral and human progress in society. Misunderstandings and their consequences. This issue does not solely apply to Judaism. Similar misunderstandings can occur in other religions as well. One common misconception is the notion of racial superiority, which some individuals derive from the concept of chosenness. This thinking can lead to severe consequences as it fosters discrimination and racism. Some groups, based on this mistaken belief, consider themselves superior to others, using it to justify immoral and inhumane behaviors, leading to isolation and division. Such thinking not only harms religious values but also creates social tensions and human crises. The misunderstanding of chosenness is not limited to Judaism but can also be found in other religions. For example, in some interpretations of Islam, a type of chosenness is mentioned that could potentially lead to misunderstandings and extremism. In Islamic history, there have been Muslims who misused Quranic verses to claim superiority over others. This indicates that religious misunderstandings are a widespread issue across various faiths. In fact, these misunderstandings particularly intensify when religious teachings are misinterpreted or fall into the hands of ignorant or extremist individuals. These people push their ideas forward in the name of religion, abusing divine teachings. Therefore, we must seriously address this issue and work to prevent the spread of such misunderstandings. These misunderstandings can have dangerous consequences. Racism and discrimination stemming from these incorrect interpretations can lead to wars, social tensions, and even genocide. History is full of examples showing how misinterpretations of religious teachings can lead to violence and injustice. For instance, throughout history, various religious groups have exploited beliefs and teachings to justify inhumane actions. Religious wars, the persecution of minorities, and many other human crises all stem from misunderstandings and false interpretations of religious teachings. As such, it is important that we, as human beings, closely and carefully examine religious teachings, striving to avoid misunderstandings and false interpretations. We should also be aware of the negative consequences of these wrong interpretations and work to promote religious teachings in ways that enhance humanity, love, and empathy. It's also important to remember that misunderstandings are often beneficial to a select few who exploit religious teachings for their own purposes. For this reason, it is our duty to stay away from these misunderstandings with knowledge and awareness, striving to uplift one another. We must remember that religion, especially in all faiths, should guide humanity toward truth and goodness, not serve as a tool for division and conflict. It is our responsibility to work together to achieve these goals. Interpretation of Kabbalah and Talmud, understanding the complexities. In this section, we will explore the Kabbalistic and Talmudic texts and examine how, especially in the contemporary world, these texts may be misunderstood as signs of Jewish racial or religious superiority. Each of these texts contains deep and complex layers that require careful and informed interpretation. Kabbalah, as a mystical school within Judaism, delves into profound contemplation about spiritual matters. It teaches that through mystical thought, one can attain a special understanding of God and the universe. However, throughout history, many have misinterpreted these mystical and symbolic texts to justify superiority and racism. The Talmud, as an essential legal and ethical source in Judaism, contains numerous discussions on religious laws and teachings. As a significant reference for understanding Jewish teachings, it must be studied with its historical and social context in mind. In reality, the Talmud should never be seen as a sign of superiority, but rather as a tool to guide individuals towards an ethical and humane life. Many people, especially today, read these texts superficially and without a deep understanding of their context, leading to erroneous conclusions. These misunderstandings can result in racism, discrimination, and injustice, ultimately weakening humanity and morality. The idea of superiority that some people extract from Kabbalistic and Talmudic texts is, in fact, a result of misinterpretations born from a lack of proper understanding. These misconceptions harm not only the Jewish community but also humanity as a whole. Therefore, it is essential that we increase our awareness and develop a correct understanding of these texts. One of the most important aspects of Kabbalah is its effort to guide humans toward a deeper understanding of existence and God. This deep understanding requires a great deal of reflection, and any superficial interpretation can lead to misunderstandings. For this reason, when studying these texts, we must pay attention to their historical and philosophical context. Regarding the Talmud, it can be said that this text, as a religious and legal discussion, reminds us that each individual must respect the rights of others and strive to live in a society of justice and fairness. Therefore, any incorrect interpretation of these texts not only infringes on others' rights but also creates tension and conflict in society. Misinterpretations and misunderstandings of these texts only create division and discord among people. As followers of religion and thoughtful individuals, it is our responsibility to deeply and correctly understand these teachings, promoting empathy, kindness, and justice in society. Religion, especially in all faiths, should guide us toward goodness and truth, not toward superiority and division. The chosen people, responsibility or superiority. In this section, we will address the question, does being chosen mean greater responsibility or superiority over others? In reality, being chosen in religious texts is defined as an ethical duty assigned to a specific group of people. This concept should never be interpreted as a sign of racial or religious superiority. To better understand this concept, we must turn to sacred texts and religious teachings. In the Torah, God introduces the Jewish people as the chosen people, and this chosenness refers to their selection to follow divine commandments and adhere to moral principles. This choice is by no means an indication of racial or human superiority, but is rather an invitation to accept greater responsibilities. For example, in various verses of the Torah, particularly in Exodus, God asks the Jewish people to follow His laws and commandments, and to serve as a model for others. This is a heavy responsibility that comes with serious obligations. Therefore, chosenness here is presented as a covenant with God to act with justice and fairness, not as a reason for arrogance or superiority. The issue raised here is why some individuals interpret this concept differently and use it as a justification for racism or superiority. These misunderstandings stem from a lack of proper understanding of religious teachings and failure to recognize the ethical responsibilities that come with chosenness. If we carefully consider this concept, we realize that being chosen, as a responsibility, should aim at enhancing morality and humanity, not as a tool for justifying discrimination and division. From ancient times to today, how has the concept of the chosen people evolved from an ethical responsibility to a tool for justifying racial superiority? This transformation and the factors contributing to these misunderstandings and misinterpretations require a deeper examination of religious teachings and their historical impact. In the end, we must emphasize that chosenness does not imply a difference in essence or race but rather a difference in responsibilities and ethical duties. God does not consider any nation or race superior due to their ethnicity. Instead, His primary criteria are based on piety, justice, and morality. Therefore, any incorrect interpretation of the concept of chosenness not only fails to benefit that group but also harms the entire society. To gain a deeper understanding of this subject, in this chapter, we will examine examples of how various groups and individuals have abused the concept of chosenness and used it as a basis for division and discrimination. This is especially important in contemporary times, as with the rise of racist ideologies and superiority complexes, we need to reconsider our understanding of chosenness and our ethical responsibilities. This concept is not only a responsibility but also an opportunity to serve humanity and build a just and humane society. Chosenness, in fact, is a call to ethics and fairness, not an invitation to superiority and self-glorification. If we, as followers of religion and thoughtful individuals, understand these responsibilities correctly, we can move toward a better and more humane society. Examples of religious misinterpretations in other religions. In this section, we will examine examples of religious misinterpretations in various religions and attempt to offer a deep understanding of how these misinterpretations occur and their impacts on human societies. Human history is filled with numerous instances showing how some individuals or groups have used religious concepts to justify discrimination, racism, violence, and even wars. These misinterpretations have significantly affected human relationships and the correct understanding of religious teachings. One notable example of misinterpretation in the history of Christianity is the use of religious teachings as a justification for slavery and racial discrimination. At different times, some Christians have supported slavery by referencing sacred texts, deeming it permissible. By misinterpreting Bible verses, they attempted to legitimize the system of slavery, thereby stripping an entire group of their most fundamental human rights. This not only led to racial discrimination and oppression but also tarnished the image of Christianity and its teachings. In Islam, too, cases of misinterpretation have been observed. Throughout history, some individuals have used Quranic verses to justify violence and war. These misinterpretations have sometimes been so extreme that they have led to terrorism and widespread violence. Instead of grasping the profound humanitarian and ethical principles within the Quran, they focus solely on specific verses, interpreting them to serve their own interests. In other words, the misinterpretation of the concept of jihad as a tool to justify violence and extremism is one of the critical issues in this regard, with clear examples being terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Other religions, such as Hinduism and Buddhism, also show examples of religious misinterpretations. In Hinduism, the caste system has become a form of religious misinterpretation, whereby individuals are divided into different groups based on race and social class. This system has not only created social inequalities but also prevented individuals from accessing their basic human rights. Almost no religion is immune to the risk of misinterpretation. People, with their personal interpretations and understandings, can twist religious teachings in ways that not only contradict the spirit of the religion, but also create division and strife within society. Misinterpretations not only harm the reputation of religion but can also lead to discrimination and oppression in human societies. Therefore, we must always strive for a correct and deep understanding of our religious teachings and, instead of relying on superficial interpretations, focus on the profound meanings and human values embedded in these religions. Our responsibility as followers of religions is to prevent misinterpretations and help each other gain a better understanding of religious concepts. Only in this way can we move toward a more humane and just society, distancing ourselves from discrimination, racism, and violence. Comparing religions and their shared messages. In this section, we will explore the shared messages of all major world religions and attempt to demonstrate how these messages can serve as a bridge for establishing communication and understanding among followers of different faiths. By examining the history of religions, we realize that despite differences in rituals, customs, and beliefs, they are closely aligned in areas such as humanity, justice, and ethics. This proximity can serve as a strong foundation for peaceful coexistence and the creation of a more just and equitable world. An introduction to common values. All religions emphasize the importance of humanity. This value lies at the heart of all religious teachings and reminds followers that every human being must be respected and their rights preserved. For example, in Christianity, the teachings of Jesus Christ emphasize love for one's neighbors and forgiveness. In Islam, the Quran stresses equality and justice, urging Muslims to respect one another and avoid oppression. In Hinduism, the concept of karma reflects the idea that a person's actions in this world have moral and social consequences. The message of justice and ethics. Justice is one of the fundamental principles of all religions. In the Quran, God commands Muslims to observe justice in their dealings with others. In the Bible, Jesus emphasizes that people should treat others fairly. In Taoism, the concept of Tao teaches humans to interact with nature and others with fairness and respect. These examples highlight the fact that justice is a core principle in all major religions, and no faith can deviate from this fundamental truth. The role of religion in improving society. The purpose of religion is, in truth, to elevate human life toward betterment. Religions should act as tools for creating a just and equal society. In many faiths, commandments and laws stress the importance of helping the needy, orphans, and the vulnerable. This focus on helping others is not only morally important but also socially significant, as establishing social justice and eliminating poverty and inequality creates a healthy and sustainable society. How can religious messages be utilized? One of the great challenges of human society is how to use the core messages of religion to create a just and equal world. In this regard, religious leaders and sociologists need to collaborate and create spaces for dialogue and exchange of ideas to offer practical solutions. For instance, holding interfaith conferences and meetings can promote mutual understanding and raise public awareness about the shared values of religions. In conclusion, it can be said that all divine religions emphasize common principles that can serve as a foundation for peaceful coexistence and societal advancement. Ultimately, this shared message should be seen as a practical guide for our lives and efforts to improve societal conditions. When followers of religions focus on their commonalities rather than their differences, they can build a better world for themselves and future generations. This chapter reminds us that each of us, as representatives of our faiths, bears the responsibility of using the core messages of religion to promote humanity and establish justice in society. Consequences of past misinterpretations leading to present-day challenges. In this section, we will examine the consequences of historical misinterpretations and how they have led to today's challenges in international and social relations. In today's world, we are witnessing an increase in religious and ethnic conflicts, with roots in the incorrect interpretations of religious texts and the misuse of past history. These issues have had global impacts, leading to human crises and tensions. Misinterpretations and their consequences. Misinterpretations refer to incorrect understanding or misrepresentation of religious concepts and texts, which can have serious repercussions. History has shown us how these misinterpretations have, over time, led to racist interpretations and religious prejudices, ultimately causing wars and conflicts. For instance, extreme interpretations of religious concepts in some Islamic societies have given rise to radical and extremist groups that engage in violent acts in the name of religion. Religious and ethnic conflicts. Many of the religious and ethnic conflicts we witness today have roots in historical misinterpretations. These conflicts can stem from religious, ethnic, and racial differences, gradually escalating into violence and disputes. For example, the conflicts between Muslims and Christians in some countries illustrate the fact that misunderstandings and the inability to comprehend each other's beliefs can lead to severe and deadly clashes. Racial supremacy. Racial supremacy is another consequence of historical misinterpretations, still observed in various societies. Some groups, due to the misuse of religious texts and incorrect interpretations, consider themselves superior to others, and this sense of superiority leads to discrimination and oppression. This form of supremacy not only negatively affects human relations but can also lead to the violation of human rights and the emergence of authoritarian regimes. Current challenges. In today's world, we face numerous challenges rooted in past misinterpretations. One such challenge is the migration and refugee crisis caused by conflicts and tensions resulting from religious misinterpretations. Millions of people, driven by war and insecurity, are forced to leave their countries in search of safe places to live. This situation can lead to new tensions in host societies, giving rise to issues such as racism and discrimination against immigrants. Global trends and the need for solidarity. Global trends highlight the need for solidarity among nations and cultures. In today's world, to confront the challenges caused by historical misinterpretations, it is necessary for societies to collaborate and, instead of focusing on differences, emphasize their commonalities. We must seek to create spaces for dialogue and exchange ideas to learn from each other's experiences and find appropriate solutions for resolving shared issues. In summary, historical misinterpretations not only affect interpersonal and social relations but also lead to larger challenges. How can we return to the right path of religion? There are solutions for preventing religious misunderstandings and returning to the right path of faith. In today's world, with its numerous challenges, it's crucial to achieve a common understanding through a correct and deep comprehension of religious concepts. This not only strengthens interfaith relationships but also creates a peaceful and just environment for all humanity. One of the key tools to achieve this goal is interfaith dialogue. These conversations provide an opportunity for individuals from different religions to exchange ideas. Such dialogue can foster a better understanding of each other's beliefs, focusing on human commonalities rather than differences. Through conferences, seminars, and educational programs, we can create a supportive and inclusive space where people of all faiths feel heard. These interactions help reduce misconceptions and improve human connections. Scientific and historical research also plays a significant role in this process. By using scientific and historical methods, we can interpret sacred texts more accurately and gain a better understanding of the historical context in which these texts were written. These studies can show us how misunderstandings have formed throughout history and what factors contributed to religious deviations. This knowledge allows us to more precisely engage with the core principles and values of religion, leading to a common and fair understanding. A deeper understanding of religious texts is also an effective step in this regard. Careful study of sacred texts and attention to varying interpretations and meanings is essential. This requires ongoing diligence, ensuring that proper methods of interpretation are applied. It's also important to remember that religious texts should be interpreted within their historical and cultural context, avoiding modern-day distortions. Ultimately, religion should serve as a means to strengthen human unity and foster justice. Instead of using religion to justify discrimination and superiority, we should seek ways to promote solidarity and peaceful coexistence among people. In today's world, where we face many challenges, it is essential to use religious teachings to create a more just and equal world. In conclusion, returning to the truth and the right path of religion requires continuous effort, empathy, and mutual understanding. Through dialogue, research, and a deeper comprehension of religious texts, we can move toward a more just and peaceful world. It is up to us to use our religious teachings as tools to promote unity and friendship among people, stepping toward a better and fairer society. Conclusion. Religion, as a guide for humanity, should remind us that all people are equal, and God does not favor anyone except based on their piety and ethics. This is critical because, in many cases, misunderstandings of religious concepts lead to racism, discrimination, and moral deviations. Concepts like the chosen people must be interpreted within their historical and meaningful context, and should not be used as a justification for racial or religious superiority. Such misinterpretations of religious texts not only create division and social tensions but also weaken moral and human foundations. If we act based on the ethical and human principles of religion, rather than creating divisions based on race or creed, we can help build a just and compassionate society. Additionally, we must recognize that every individual, regardless of their religion or culture, is a respected part of a larger whole. In the end, the main goal of religion should be the elevation of humanity and the improvement of life for all people. By understanding the true principles and teachings of religion, we can take steps toward a more just and peaceful life, using it to strengthen unity and solidarity among people.